I threw it away because it's cheap junk.
We're not doing great recently, but I prepared a present for my husband's promotion, hoping it would help us grow closer. However, what he said crushed that hope.
Don't you know what's inside it?
Huh?
The gift is not just from me. Actually, there's another part to it. 11.
Realizing the truth, my husband starts to panic, finally grasping the irreversible mistake he made. But it's too late now. My name is Susan Johnson. I am a 30-year-old stay-at-home wife. My husband, Mark, who is 4 years older than me, and I have been married for 3 years. We don't have any kids, and currently live with my in-laws. I met my husband at work. He was my supervisor and taught me everything from scratch, since I had no work experience post-college. I wasn't good at my job initially and got scolded a lot. Yet, he managed his work efficiently while also looking out for his subordinates, and I eventually fell for him. By my 3rd year in the company, Mark proposed to me. I immediately accepted since I had a crush on him too. He was 29 then and wanted to marry us, but my parents, especially my dad, wanted me to get to know him better first, so marriage was put off. Eventually my parents gave in, and we got married after dating for 2 years. At that time, both my husband and my in-laws insisted that a wife's duty is to take care of the home, so I quit my job to become a housewife. Honestly, I was just starting to get recognized at work, so leaving was bittersweet. I suggested working until we have kids, but my husband and in-laws opposed, saying, which is more important, your duty as a wife or your job? I had no choice but to quit. Perhaps because of this background, I often get blamed for not getting pregnant. If only you had married sooner. My MIL often gossips about this with neighbors. Despite all that, the fact that they waited for me to get married remains. So I endure. But it's been 3 years since we got married, and I'm still only 30. I'm medically fit to conceive. If only our relationship were good, everything else would work out, or so I thought. But I was wrong. From day one, my husband told me to always be careful. From day one, my husband told me to always respect him and listen to my in-laws. I had no problem with that, but I was only allowed to eat after they had finished, and sometimes there was no food left. Even my bath water would sometimes get drained before I could take a bath. I thought that saving some food for myself or taking a shower would suffice. But recently, my husband started saying things like, "You're just being provided for, and yet you complain about groceries and utilities." When I suggested working part-time, he scolded me, saying, "How dare you talk when you haven't fulfilled your responsibility of bearing a child?" Then one day, my husband came home from work, went straight into my in-laws' room, and I could hear them all laughing. I was preparing dinner and wondered what was going on, so I peeked into their room.
Mail came out and said, "Susan, what's for dinner tonight?"
Stir-fried burdock root and ginger pork.
Why such a simple menu? Mark got promoted. You should make something luxurious.
What would you suggest?
It's a celebration. Make his favorites like steak or hot pot.
But I only get $30 a week for groceries. How can I make something luxurious? Arguing would only get me accused of backtalk, so I could only say I'm sorry. My husband looked at me with a disdainful glance, as if to say, "She's always been thoughtless." The next day, I headed out to shop for ingredients to make beef stew for dinner, fulfilling my husband's request. While I was out, I decided to stop by a department store to pick up a little gift for him. I figured his recent moodiness might have been due to the stress of his promotion at work. Above all, I wanted to express my gratitude to him for always working hard for our family. I thought something practical for work would be best. So I decided to purchase a business card holder. As I was getting it wrapped with a congratulatory card, I heard a voice behind me. Turning around, I saw Mr. and Mrs. Johnson, who had played matchmaker for us when we got married. It had been a while since Mr. Johnson had last seen me, and he seemed surprised by how much weight I had lost. He immediately asked, "A gift for your husband?"
I replied, yes, I heard he's been promoted to a managerial position.
Oh, really? Got some time?
We were then invited for coffee and chatted for about an hour before parting ways with the Johnsons. I returned home to face my MIL and files' displeasure for being late, but they cheered up when they saw the beef I bought for the stew. The beef stew was completely consumed by my husband, MIL, and file, and not even the sauce was left. I wished we could have enjoyed this special celebration meal together, but I just cleaned up and headed to the bedroom. By then, my husband was already snoring in bed. It didn't seem right to wake him up just to give him his present. Though I hadn't handed over the gift I had so thoughtfully prepared, I figured I could give it to him after breakfast the next day, since it's a weekend. I placed the gift bag on the bedside table and crawled into bed. The following Saturday morning, when I returned to the bedroom after breakfast, the bag that was there earlier was gone. Figuring my husband might have taken it, I headed to the living room, where he and my in-laws were lounging.
Do you know what happened to the bag on our bedroom table?
Oh, I threw that out first thing in the morning.
What? That was a gift for your promotion?
I was at a loss for words, thinking, could he possibly throw away his own gift? Normally, one wouldn't even imagine such a situation unfolding.
It was just some cheap thing you bought, right? I don't need junk like that.
Weren't there 2 bags? Didn't you check either of them?
Why would I? Didn't seem worth it.
I couldn't believe he would just throw away a gift that was clearly well-wrapped and obviously a present without even opening it. I also felt disgusted by my in-laws who didn't say a word about my husband's behavior and just laughed along with him.
So you threw it away. That's too bad.
Probably at the dump by now. Truly a pity.
You sure you're okay with that? Once it's collected, there's no getting it back.
You're making a fuss over a discarded cheap gift?
If you always chose thoughtful gifts, this wouldn't have happened, right?
Yeah, a gift from an unemployed wife like you is just trash.
As the 3 of them laughed, I felt defeated and let out a sigh.
It's trash, huh? I see. Even if you bought it at the department store, how fancy could something you picked be?
Well, maybe a $300 business card holder might not be worth it for a manager like you. Well, considering your taste, maybe you'd choose something nice for once.
But just a business card holder. Couldn't you pick something more exciting as a gift for a promoted husband?
Didn't you say there were 2 bags? What was in the other one?
The other one was entrusted to me by Mr. Johnson. What should we do now?
What the heck?
I ran into the director and his wife while shopping for the gift. They said it was a congratulatory gift for your promotion.
Why didn't you say that earlier?
I watched my husband rush to the garbage collection area in a flustered manner. Too late for regrets now. It's probably already in a waste facility. He quickly returned and confronted me.
Hey, what was the gift from the director?
I have no idea. I just accepted it. It's not like I'm gonna ask what's inside.
Seriously?
Look, we at least need to thank them.
But we don't know what the gift was.
We can just make something up.
Watching my frantic husband, I began to wonder what on earth I had been doing under such people for the past 3 years. Not only have I never been treated like a decent human being, but just like the gifts I've prepared over the years, I've probably been considered trash by these people. I finally come to realize this. For these 3 years, I haven't even been allowed to eat properly, let alone be respected as an individual. Even if we married 2 years later than planned, the inability to have children isn't solely my fault. Yet, I've felt guilty all this time, always being told don't talk back, don't resist, and I've been obedient. I found myself getting angrier at my own foolishness than at them.
We can say you forgot it while bringing it home. Home.
You're blaming me?
I've just been promoted. My reputation in the office matters.
Then say you lost it on the train.
Unfortunately, that won't work. The director knows I didn't take a train since they drove me home.
Then think of another excuse.
Why should I? You're the one who threw it away.
Shut up! You created this confusing situation by placing my gift next to the one from the director.
Should I have woken you up or labeled the bag right? This is from the director.
If you had told me from the beginning, I never would have thrown it away.
Shouldn't you be reflecting on throwing it away in the first place?
You're my wife. Aren't you supposed to support me?
Being a wife doesn't make me a do-it-all. Is this what your mother meant by support your husband?
Do you want me to get into trouble at work?
Frankly, I don't care anymore. If you can't take responsibility for your actions, what kind of manager are you? I pity whoever has to work under you.
My husband and in-laws looked dejected as they slumped onto the living room floor. I expressed my need to think about the future and decided to pack up and leave the house. The next day, I approached a lawyer to file for divorce. Considering I've always been told I'm slow and inefficient at work, my swift action must have taken them by surprise. I was contacted, hoping for a discussion, but I was determined to communicate only through my attorney. The following month, I had him sign the divorce papers and received half of our savings as a property settlement, marking the end of my 3-year marriage. I later heard updates through the executive's wife, Mrs. Anderson. My ex-husband apparently thanked her for the gift, but seemed to have been avoiding Mr. Anderson, who was also our matchmaker. However, since our divorce was underway, he had no choice but to meet with the Andersons. He might have tried to dodge the topic, but he confessed to discarding not just the gift, but also the accompanying message. The Andersons mentioned that when they saw me at the department store that day, I looked more drained than thin. They included a letter with their promotion celebration gift, expressing concern for my health and wanting to chat with both me and my then husband. With my ex avoiding them, it probably ruffled their feathers even more. Though it might not be the direct cause, it seems my ex got a promotion but was moved to a less significant department. His parents, my former MIL, tried to defend him by going directly to the Andersons, which became neighborhood gossip. Eventually, they had to leave their longtime residence. Considering these actions, many sided with me, and rumors spread like wildfire. Moreover, discarding Mr. Anderson's gift became office gossip through a colleague's loose lips, damaging his reputation and branding him as an unreliable man. There's chatter that he might be demoted in the next personnel shuffle. He must be feeling the heat. And so, a year after the divorce, after going back to my parents' house, I planned on jumping right back into work. But those around me stopped me, saying I looked too unwell for even daily life, let alone a job. So I decided to take some time off, thanks to my mom consulting with a doctor to plan my meals according to my health needs. I was able to regain my strength, consulting with a doctor to plan my meals according to my health needs. I was able to regain my strength. As for now, a friend offered me a job at their company, so I'm back to working again. Moving forward, I plan to be more discerning about people, while continuing to be grateful for the support I've received. I also intend to make it up to my worried parents by being a dutiful daughter. A few days after my husband Mark got promoted to supervisor, my MIL Mary came over to celebrate. I glanced at the dining table and tilted my head. The gift bag from last night's promotion celebration is nowhere to be seen.
Hey, do you know where the gift bag I left on the table last night is?
When Mark came back into the living room in his casual clothes, he smirked mischievously.
Oh, that cheap thing you gave me? I tossed it.
I widened my eyes.
The one in the Nordstrom bag, right? Custom-made shirts with initials and all? Too tacky. Not gonna wear 'em.
I gave a thin smile. I see. So that's how he's always felt. On Valentine's Day and birthdays, I'd go all the way to the department store to pick out stylish socks or handkerchiefs for him. But Mark would just take them as if it was his due, not even saying thanks. Too bad that bag wasn't a gift from me. I can't wait to see how this drama unfolds. He's gonna pay for all the times he's belittled me. I'm Zara, 38-year-old housewife. I married Mark 2 years ago, and I've been working part-time ever since we tied the knot. Mark and I met through our bosses at the company where he worked, which is the parent company of my part-time job. We were both feeling the pressure as our friends and colleagues got married one after another, so we were grateful to our bosses for introducing us. Drawn by Mark's confident and upbeat personality, I had no doubt that we could build a wonderful home together. So I happily accepted his proposal a year later. Little did I know I'd be regretting it in less than 6 months. As soon as we got married, Mark's arrogant true colors came out. The first red flag was his grumpy comment right after we returned from our honeymoon.
So, how long are you planning to work?
What do you mean? I make enough money. Quit your job. I was taken aback.
Times have changed. It's not about depending on the husband's income anymore. Plus, we may want kids someday. I'd like to save up while we can.
Fine, keep working, but do part-time. What if you neglect the housework?
If we're both working, it's only fair we share the chores.
Ha, you earn less than me, and you're telling me what to do. My mom kept the house spotless and served my late dad.
That's just what wives do. But hey, I can take out the trash if you want. His mom was a stay-at-home wife, and his dad was a classic patriarch. It seems I can't meet such outdated expectations. Arguing seems pointless, so I just sighed and dropped it. I requested my workplace to switch me from full-time to a part-time job with a 3 p.m. quitting time. I thought if we talked it through enough times, Mark would eventually understand. Boy, was I wrong. His condescending attitude only got worse. What really irked me was his fussiness about meal plans. The guy can't even cook rice, yet he's got all kinds of demands. One day when I was bedridden with a high fever, he came to my bedside and said,
What about lunch?
Groggy, I squinted at him and croaked,
Sorry, can't get up to cook right now.
Just make something simple, like stir-fried noodles.
Stir-fried noodles? Simple? I wanted to snap, but didn't have the energy. Just have some instant curry or ramen.
Wow, can't even make lunch. You're a bad wife. Manage yourself better.
Mark ate his ramen with a look of displeasure, not showing an ounce of concern for me. I had no choice but to microwave some instant porridge for myself. Yet when he got sick a month later, he made a big fuss, blaming me for catching the cold from me, and made me prepare chicken soup and nurse him all night. When I said I had to work the next day, he lost it.
Wow, you're a cold-hearted wife. Don't you care that I'm going through a hard time? Show some concern.
To top it off, Mark had me make his lunches too, citing the cost of takeout and dining out. And of course, he had a list of nitpicky rules with 0 words of gratitude. Leftovers or frozen food for dinner? Nope. Mark insisted on home-cooked meals. He even dictated breakfast. No miso soup. I hate it. Instead, it had to be vegetable soup, eggs, fruit, toast, and coffee. Ingredients in the soup, the type of fruit and egg dishes had to change daily. Little by little, I found myself constantly thinking about meal planning even at work, feeling increasingly depressed. But getting divorced so soon after marriage would be unfair to the boss who set us up. Couldn't complain to friends, and with my parents gone, I had no one to confide in. I was a ball of stress. Despite my difficult husband, I kept trying. For our anniversary, I cooked his favorite meatloaf and waited up for him until late. He got home the next day due to a sudden work trip. I didn't lose heart. For Valentine's Day, I gave him a trendy t-shirt I bought from a department store. He showed 0 reaction. Looks like it's just raw fodder now. Then in early March, Mark texted me a photo during his work break that
Order this online. You get a member discount, right?
Sure, but is it for you?
It's a return gift for some chocolates I got from my subordinates. Gotta give something back.
the item was a pair of fancy wine glasses from a high-end brand. I nearly asked something, but swallowed it. He couldn't be so brazen as to ask his wife to order a gift for a mistress. Right? Sometime later, I got a call from Mark during my lunch break at work.
Good news. I got promoted to team leader.
Wow, congratulations. We should celebrate tonight.
Nah, I'll be celebrating with my team. No need for you to fuss.
Seeing Mark so happy, I couldn't help but smile. Despite his often snarky attitude, I thought I'd do something special for his promotion. After a quick dinner, I was watching TV when my phone buzzed. A message from Mark. My breath caught as I read.
Heading over to Sarah's place now? Can't wait for the gift. Don't forget to put out the wine glasses I gave her last time, okay?
Before I could react, another message came in.
Can't wait to spend the night with Sarah. Man, I really don't want to go back to my dumpy wife's house.
This must be what they call a text fail. This was undeniable proof he was cheating. Though I'd long lost any emotional connection with him, I found myself tearing up in shock. A swirl of sadness and fierce anger clouded my mind. I took a deep breath to compose myself and quickly screenshot the texts before he could delete them. After that, I couldn't concentrate on the TV show, so I took a shower to clear my head. While drying my hair, Mark came home. I peeked into the living room and found him sprawled out on the couch, snoring away. The stench of alcohol mingled with his body wash, filling the room with an awful smell. Holding my nose, I glanced at the high-end shopping bag crumpled at the foot of the couch. A shirt, maybe, a ribbon wrap box, and a floral card lay scattered on the floor. As I picked them up to put them back in the bag, I took note of the handwritten message. Congrats on the promotion, Mark. Being a department head in such a huge company is amazing. Looking forward to our weekend in San Francisco. I chuckled lightly. Mark works for a small business. Who exactly does he tell that he works for a big corporation? Who exactly does he tell he's with a big corporation? And about, being a department head when he just made it to supervisor. What an insecure man. I can't believe he'd be so cheap as to have his affair partner's gift returned by his wife to save a few bucks on delivery fees. I glared at Mark, who lay on the couch drooling with his mouth open. A week later, on a public holiday, both Mark and I had the day off. We planned to sleep in, but I found myself waking up earlier than usual. When I got up to use the bathroom, I sensed someone downstairs and went to check. My MIO, Mary, was in the kitchen dressed in an apron. She frowned when she saw me.
You're finally up? For a housewife, you sure do sleep in.
Mom, it's only 5 a.m.
As I yawned, I looked at Mary preparing the meal.
By the way, Amiel, what brings you here so early? Even using your spare key?
I'm here for Mark's promotion celebration, of course. I heard he has a business trip this weekend, so I moved it to today.
Mary said, her face beaming. I muttered to myself, it's not a business trip, but an overnight affair. And why on earth is she cooking meat so early in the morning? Could she be planning to prepare a feast throughout the day? I had a bad feeling, but decided not to ask. I changed into casual clothes and started doing the laundry. So much for sleeping in on my day off. Soon, the delicious smell of grilled meat filled the kitchen. I like roast beef and pulled pork too, but not first thing in the morning. Ignoring the dishes piling up in the sink, Mary cheerfully started making a salad as I began preparing breakfast. Eventually, losing patience with Mark, who showed no signs of waking up, Mary asked me, "Hey Mary, what time does Mark usually get up?"
On his days off, usually around 10 a.m. He's tired from working every day.
Huh? Well, it's okay. The party is tonight anyway. What about you, Zara? You working today?
I'm off today too.
Oh, is that so?
Mary looked annoyed as she sat down heavily on the sofa, acting as if she owned the place, and began watching a TV talk show without doing the dishes. After a while, Mark finally woke up and looked surprised to find Mary dominating the living room.
Mom, what are you doing here?
Good morning, Mark. I'm here to throw you a surprise promotion party tonight. Being a department head at that big corporation is really something to brag about to the neighbors.
Ah, thank you.
Mark gave me a quick, awkward glance and went off to the bathroom. Has he even lied to his parents about this? I thought, incredulous. Then I looked at the dining table and tilted my head. The wrapped gift for the promotion celebration from last night was missing.
Hey, do you know where the wrapped gift I left on the dining table last night is?
Mark returned to the living room, smirking unpleasantly.
Oh, that cheap stuff you gave me? I threw it away.
I widened my eyes.
It was in a Saks Fifth Avenue bag. Custom shirts with my initials and all. Too outdated for me to even consider wearing.
I offered a thin smile. So this is how he's always felt. Every anniversary I've gone out of my way to pick out stylish socks and handkerchiefs. But Mark would just take them as though it was his due, never saying thank you. Too bad that bag was a gift from me. I'm looking forward to the storm that's about to hit. He'll pay for all the times he's taken me for granted. Hearing my sharp words, Jack looked puzzled.
Did you see what was inside?
What?
That was a gift from your mom. I left it on the dining table because it came by FedEx. I texted you about it last night. Didn't you see it? Mark frantically pulled out his phone, checked the message, and turned pale. Mark, who was munching on a cookie, crushed the cookie in his hand and rose.
I said I'd only make a special dinner this year, remember? From what I saw, it was a lovely shirt.
Ah, you were too drunk last night to even notice, huh? Mark's mouth hung open as he looked at Mary.
She even added a handwritten card. You just casually throw away gifts from people, don't you? Your mother would be disappointed.
I'll go pick it up now. Wait, what?
As Mark rummaged through the kitchen trash can, Mary's sharp voice cut through.
I already took it out to the garbage collection point.
Mark looked at the wall clock and was stunned. He had missed the pickup time by 30 minutes. The burnable trash would have already been collected by now. Mark ran to Mary, knelt down, and put his hands together in apology.
I'm sorry. I wouldn't have thrown it away if I knew it was from Mom, even if it was from me. Tossing it out without even using it is just rude.
Mary chided, her voice filled with indignation.
Mary belongs to a generation that saves things like wedding favors, believing in the value of gifts. Throwing away a gift without even using it was unforgivable to her. Mark, having thoroughly soured his mother's mood, looked deflated and small. They're usually close, so he seemed at a loss at what to do. Why waste a perfect tailwind? I spoke loudly, addressing Mary, who had visibly started to prepare to leave, looking grumpy.
Come on, Mio, let's not be too harsh. Mark was really busy last night. Actually,
He's had more work and business trips for about a year now, but no increase in salary. I said it sarcastically, and Mark glanced at me nervously, breaking into a cold sweat. Does she know I'm cheating? No, she can't know yet. If I can keep it hidden, I'll hide it. Seemed to be his internal conflict as he chuckled and stuttered through an awkward excuse.
Yeah, that's right. The job's gotten busier, but the pay hasn't gone up. What a terrible company.
I was too busy to even check my phone last night.
ooh. Well, speaking of which, MAO, Mark sent me this message the other day.
I showed Mary the text on my phone, a message Mark had mistakenly sent to me. Mary's eyes widened.
Mark, are you having an affair?
What?
Mary handed him my phone, and Mark's eyes widened in disbelief.
What the hell is this?
That's my line. You mistakenly sent me lovey-dovey messages meant for your mistress, right?
Is this about the wine glasses that you had me order online?
Yeah, it is.
I can't believe it. Having your wife buy a gift for your mistress. What kind of nerve do you have?
You're making a fool of not just me, but your mistress as well.
Give me a break. The shipping fee alone was like $250. As long as she doesn't find out, who cares? I paid you for the glass, didn't I? Got a problem with that.
Despite it being obvious, Mark sounded defiant. So that was his reasoning. That? What a cheapskate.
You're stingy, but you still want to cheat. And if you were going to cheat just 2 years into our marriage, why marry me in the first place? How awful is that?
But once we got married, I got bored with you real quick. Women gotta be young and cute, you know?
I was speechless at Mark's audacity.
So you've been cheating for over 6 months now, right? That's when you started going to strip clubs with your coworkers. Your sudden increase in business trips, weekend work, and overtime seemed suspicious.
You're so naive. I knew you'd believe me if I said that. I threw away all the lunches you made for me on those days. Wouldn't people like to eat them on dates with Sarah?
I was floored. I had been getting up at 5 a.m., even on weekends, to make elaborate lunches, and he had just been tossing them. I looked over at my Mael, who was silently crossing her arms and frowning. I continued my interrogation, seething with rage.
Your weekend business trips to San Francisco were romantic getaways, weren't they? I hired a PI, so playing dumb won't help.
I pulled out documents and photos from a large envelope and spread them across the table. There were photos of him arm in arm with a woman at tourist spots, kissing, even entering a hotel. Apparently not expecting the photos, Mark's face tensed up, but he quickly tried to brush it off. He gleefully showed off a couple's selfie from his phone to me and Mary.
Look at this, Mom. She's a much younger waitress at a club. Cute, huh?
Mary glared at him sharply. Mark flinched, and his phone was knocked out of his hand by Mary, his mouth agape.
What the hell, Mom? You cracked the screen.
Shut up.
Mary was furious, her face contorted with rage.
I was stunned. She looked ready to pounce on Mark. Quivering, Mary reprimanded him in a shrill voice.
Mark, you're cheating with a younger woman. Aren't you ashamed? I believed you would never do something like that.
But Mom, you don't even like Lisa, do you? Why get mad about me seeing another woman?
Mary was incensed.
That's different. Don't you remember? Your dad cheated on me with a bartender and even had a kid. Do you know how much I cried?
Mark covered his mouth, realizing he hit a nerve. I had heard about this from Mark before, so I suspected Mary might take my side. Turns out I was right. I decided to deliver the final blow and pulled out Mark's paycheck and bank statement from the drawer, laying them in front of Mark and Mary.
Easy there, Mill. Let's not be too hard on Mark. He's working hard and bringing home a decent paycheck, you know?
As soon as they hit the table, Mark snatched them up and stuffed the paycheck into his pants pocket. Mary looked puzzled.
Wait, Mark, you work at Toyota headquarters and that's all you make?
No, it's actually Kanata Industries.
Mary blinked.
Never heard of it. When did you switch jobs?
Steve averted his eyes, seeming uncomfortable.
I quit the job I started right out of college after a month. The pay was good, but the boss was scary. I got yelled at for oversleeping just 3 times. I'm working now, aren't I?
Exactly, Mill. You even got a promotion.
Smiling as I let the cat out of the bag, Mark glared at me.
Hey, don't add fuel to the fire.
Wait, weren't you a manager?
Well, that's in the pipeline, haha.
Chuckled and scratched his head. Mary's fury reached its peak.
Enough is enough.
She slammed her fist on the table, raising her voice.
What's the matter, Mom? No reason to get all mad.
You cheat, you lie, and you don't seem remorseful. What are you planning to do with your life, Mark?
I don't have any specific plans.
Steve blinked and smirked as he spoke to me.
Lisa, you're not planning to divorce me over a little affair, are you? I'll keep seeing Sandy, but I'll still provide for you.
You can't survive without me, can you? I was more than angry at Mark's selfish words. I was stunned. Mary seemed equally speechless.
If you don't want a divorce, then turn a blind eye to my affairs and keep serving me. I'm the one supporting us. Got it?
Steve crossed his arms, leaning back smugly.
I can't live with you anymore. Let's get divorced. I can do just fine without you.
I spread out my bank statements and pay stubs on the table. Mary peeked from the side,
Oh, your monthly income is higher than Mark's.
turned pale.
No way. That can't be.
I had you switch to part-time so you'd earn less than me. His voice trembling, Mark stared hard at the bank statement.
What's this $2,000 deposit? You doing some shady work or something?
I started some computer work from home with my free time. It's finally picking up and making money. Combined with my part-time job, I make more than you now. Especially since your company isn't giving out bonuses.
I smiled at a stint Mark.
And you shouldn't be funneling our money to your affair. You've spent about $10,000, haven't you?
Puss, just forgive me. Think of it as payback for all the things I've done for you.
Steve puffed out his chest arrogantly.
It's ridiculous to make a fuss about a single affair and being narrow-minded over a little money.
If you're earning more than me, then I can quit my job. You can do all the work and house chores. Serve me more, like Mom did when Dad was alive. Mark burst into laughter, earning him an icy glare from his mill.
I can't deal with you anymore. Let's cut ties, Mark.
What? Mom, why?
Do you think I've been catering to him because I enjoy it? I'm fed up with you. Do whatever you want. Cheat, divorce, whatever.
Mary swiftly packed her bags and walked out the front door. I presented Mark with the divorce papers.
Don't take me for a fool. Why should I stay with you when I make more money?
Expect a call from my lawyer to discuss alimony for your infidelity and verbal abuse.
Hey, don't make decisions without me. Leave my stuff alone until the movers come. If you toss it, I'll sue you.
I exited the room sharply.
Hey, this is a joke, right?
Ignoring Mark's half-smile, I left the house for good. Mark was hesitant about the divorce, but when his lawyer explained the extra legal fees, he reluctantly agreed. Recordings of his verbal abuse served as evidence, requiring Mark to pay me alimony. On top of that, he also had to reimburse the joint account for over $10,000, leaving him broke. His divorce became public knowledge at work, thanks to his wrinkled shirts and sudden lack of bringing lunch. A colleague who joined him at a strip club spilled the beans, exaggerating stories about him being violent and getting his mistress pregnant. His boss, who had even served as his best man, was furious, canceling his promotion for disrupting workplace morale. In the end, Mark got transferred to a remote island. He had to sell our house and is moving to some godforsaken place soon. According to people close to Mark's son, Mary really did cut ties with him because she couldn't stand his dishonesty anymore. A friend who saw Mark at the subway station recently was shocked by how pale and emaciated he looked. I can imagine Mark struggling mentally now, unable to rely on his mother, and being the subject of workplace gossip. Word will likely spread to his new job at the subsidiary, so he'll be looked down upon there too. As for Mark's mistress, she quickly dumped him after learning about his real job and title from his coworker. After the divorce, I felt an overwhelming sense of relief and realized how much I had been putting up with. I was in a thankless situation, made to serve endlessly, treated like a maid. I can't divorce him. He was introduced by my boss. I should be more patient. He'll come around. These thoughts held me back. Being single again, I'm enjoying the fresh air for the first time in years. The rush to remarry, to have kids, or to avoid loneliness in old age doesn't bother me now. I'm planning to stay away from relationships for a while and just enjoy my single life. Our daughter Sarah is turning 6 years old this year. She's a lively and energetic little girl who brings joy to our lives. My mother-in-law, who only had sons, was overjoyed when Sarah was born. However, as time passed, her behavior began to concern us. We realized that she doesn't just find our daughter cute. She wants to control her to fit her own ideals of what a cute little girl should be. I'm Katie, a 34-year-old working mom, and my husband, whom we'll call John, and I have been married for 7 years. We have a strong marriage, and I think we've built a reasonably happy home. We have one daughter, Sarah, who is turning 6 this year and starting elementary school next year. She's an active little girl, and we're excited about her upcoming 6th birthday. John and I are already gearing up for celebrations.
Especially John, who adores our daughter so much that he's been secretly preparing her birthday present for months now. He always goes out of his way to make both me and Sarah happy.
I have no complaints about him as a husband or father. I feel fortunate every day to have a family with such a wonderful person. However, there's one issue that bothers us.
John's mother, my mother-in-law, Mill.
As Sarah grows, we've started to have more clashes with my Mill about how she interacts with our daughter. This is causing both John and me quite a bit of concern. The root of the issue lies in Sarah's preferences and personality. Sarah has always leaned towards liking more boyish things. She prefers cool over cute and heroes over princesses. We don't know why she's developed these tastes, but by the time we noticed, that's just what she liked. She doesn't like typical girly things. Although at first surprised, John and I have accepted that these are just parts of her personality. Whatever she prefers, she is our lovely daughter. We want to create an environment where she feels free to like what she likes, without feeling the need to conform to others' expectations. My Mill, however, is not okay with this.
John is one of 3 brothers, so my Mill, who had always wanted a daughter, was ecstatic when she found out we were having a girl. She even started preparing baby clothes and toys before we thought was necessary.
She would always say, "Girl's just so much better. Look at all these cute things."
And truth be told, her enthusiasm was a bit much even for me.
Boys are always messy and break things. When I had my sons, nothing ever went as planned, so I'm thrilled to finally have a granddaughter.
My mother-in-law, who always wanted to raise a daughter, consistently chooses items like glittery trinkets and frilly clothes. Every time we meet, she hands us such baby items, to the point that both my husband and I are honestly overwhelmed. We thought maybe she was finally letting out years of pent-up feelings, so we let her have her way. Well, more like we couldn't stop her if we tried. Our daughter, who was born carrying all of my mother-in-law's expectations, turned out to be nothing like the girl my Mill had imagined. By the time he was 3 years old, he didn't like what his mother-in-law had picked out for him. She prefers blue over pink and pants over skirts. My mother-in-law wasn't pleased, and her dissatisfaction was also directed at us for accepting our daughter's preferences.
Why don't you dress her more cutely? She looks like a boy. I've been picking out such adorable stuff for her.
We've been nagged at like this about our daughter's tastes, but we had no intention of imposing adult preferences on her. If she's happy, then we're fine with it. We tried to get my mother-in-law to understand that this is our daughter's individuality and should be respected.
What are you talking about? Parents need to get it right now.
But our viewpoint didn't get through to my mother-in-law, who's always dreamed of having a granddaughter. Instead, we got lectured. Still, my husband and I didn't give up. We kept insisting to my mother-in-law that she should respect our daughter's choices, especially my husband, who said if she couldn't understand, we would cut off all contact. Seemed to finally get through to her. Gradually, she stopped meddling in our daughter's preferences, and we were somewhat relieved. Whether or not our daughter was aware of this ongoing tension between us and my mother-in-law, she continued to grow, being true to herself. The following year, our daughter, now at the age to start elementary school, when the three of us went to place an order, a backpack, she picked out a navy blue backpack. We had no objections and went ahead with the purchase. A few days after placing the order, my mother-in-law contacted me.
I heard from my son. Is it true that you chose a blue backpack for Sarah?
In a voice tinged with both dissatisfaction and concern, my mother-in-law called. Yes, because Sarah said she wanted it that way.
But is blue really okay? Won't she get teased at school? I still think the standard red or pink would be better.
Perhaps, stung by my husband's earlier warning, she sounded more tentative, as though she were thinking of Sarah's best interests. For Mill, girl never choices blue one instead of red or pink. At her age, I could understand he thought, it's best to let him use what he likes. Indeed, I was surprised by the variety of colors and designs when we went to buy the backpack. Much more diverse than in my own childhood. Even the shopkeeper said kids these days pick whatever they like, without any hang-ups. It must be a sign of the times. Still, my mother-in-law ended the call somewhat dissatisfied. Lately, she doesn't voice her discontent directly. She just gives off an air of dissatisfaction. Lately, she does voice her discontent, gives off an air of dissatisfaction. While she has stopped imposing her taste on Sarah, it still doesn't feel great. I can't help but wish she would finally accept Sarah for who she is. We've long since gotten the message that she's not thrilled about our daughter not conforming to her ideals. A few months after these back and forths with my mother-in-law, Sarah's birthday arrived. It was a holiday, so we had planned to spend the day at an amusement park and have a family dinner at home in the evening. Sarah was unusually excited. We left the house in high spirits and headed for the amusement park. We spent the entire day playing there. Sarah was so tired that she fell asleep in the car on the way home. We got home in the late afternoon, and I immediately started preparing a feast. My husband, taking advantage of Sarah's nap, started decorating the house. In the middle of all the hustle and bustle, the doorbell rang. Since I was busy cooking, my husband went to answer it. He returned to the kitchen holding a box of cake.
My mom baked a birthday cake for Sarah. She has a friend who's a pastry chef, and they made it together.
My husband says as he puts the cake, still in its box, into the fridge.
Grandkids really have a way of winning you over, huh? I never got a cake baked for me by my mom. Surely, she must have some fondness for her granddaughter, considering all she's ever said about our daughter.
It's a kind gesture. We bought a cake too, but let's serve both. Sarah will be thrilled to see 2 cakes. Guess we'll be eating cake for a few days, huh? We both chuckle as I set the table. Once everything is ready, I pull out the cake from the fridge. My mother-in-law's cake is in a fancy box. Curious, I open the box and see an impressively decorated cake, almost too perfect to be homemade. The next moment I slam the box into the trash.
What the hell are you doing? That's the cake my mom brought.
My husband yells at me as he's helping to set the table. This is trash. She doesn't get it. I shout back, urging him to look inside the trash. He opens the trash reluctantly, his face stern, and sees the cake barely holding its shape.
What is this? He murmurs.
It's an overly girly pink princess decorated cake, the kind Sarah dislikes the most. The white plate the princess is holding says in pink letters, "Let's be a normal girl from now on." Mill went through the trouble of making this cake. I can't help it if your mother-in-law can't accept Sarah's hobbies, but to do this to her on her big birthday is unacceptable. There were some decorations made of sugar on the cake. Ribbons, hearts, and even a pink backpack were part of the cake decorations. My mom wants to say Sarah isn't normal, and that's why she made this. This isn't love. It's malice. I continue. For me, Sarah is our lovely, precious daughter. Today is a day our daughter was looking forward to. How crushed she would be if she saw this. I can't help but shed a tear.
Katie, I'm sorry.
My husband says his eyes almost teary. It's not his fault, but his mom did something to hurt our beloved daughter. He's probably conflicted.
Wait here. I'm gonna go have a talk with my mom.
He says dashing out of the house. It takes only about 10 minutes by car to get to her place. His face is angrier than I've ever seen as he drives off. Around 20 minutes later, my phone rings. It's Mill. I have no idea what's going on, but answered the call.
My son told me he's going to disown me. It's all your fault. I can't take it anymore.
She screams over. My husband probably severed ties with her, realizing he stood up for us. I say by normal. Do you mean that they do what your mother-in-law wants them to do? Then all of your mother-in-law's children are not normal. Thanks to Mill's outburst, I can keep my cool. I can't forgive my mother-in-law for bad-mouthing my daughter just because she doesn't fit the image of a grandchild she had in mind. Kids are individual human beings, each with their own unique thoughts and preferences. I think my husband is not sane from my mother-in-law's point of view. So, as my husband says, let's get rid of him. I know my words probably won't get through to her. I hang up the phone and turn it off. Just then, my husband comes home.
I've got ties with my Mill. She said some really terrible things about Sarah. If she's gonna be that kind of grandma, it's better she's not in our lives.
My husband didn't go into details, but she must have said something really awful. He probably didn't want me to hear about it. I tell him about the call from my Mill and that I've also decided to cut ties with her.
Sorry you had to hear all that. Just forget about her from now on.
He says sadly, but then claps his hands and forces a smile.
Come on, let's celebrate our adorable Sarah.
My husband starts reheating the cooled-down dinner. He must be the one hurting the most, yet he's still looking out for us. Whatever my Mill said to make such a kind man decide to cut ties must have been really bad. I start to feel a little sorry for her, whom we might never see again.
I'll go wake up Sarah. You just get the cake ready.
I hear my husband's gentle voice as he wakes up our daughter from the bedroom. I pull myself together and decide to celebrate our daughter wholeheartedly. Our daughter's happiness is what's most important to us. After that, we had a grand birthday celebration for our awakened daughter, Sarah. Seeing her genuinely happy face, I'm glad she didn't have to hear what my Mill said. As for my Mill, I've had no further contact with her. She's been trying to contact my husband incessantly, but he's not responding. We've even decided to move away from our house that's close to his family home at his request. He will seriously cut his ties to his mother. I later heard from my husband that when he last visited his family home, my MIL had bought a backpack for Sarah. A cute pink one with all sorts of decorations. She intended to force Sarah to use it. That's probably why he chose to keep Sarah away from her. Sure, some people might mock Sarah for her tastes in the future, but there's nothing wrong with liking what you like. We want to support and validate our daughter's feelings wholeheartedly, because that's what will make her happy. As long as my MIL doesn't understand that, we will have no further dealings with her.
My name is Catherine, and I'm 40 years old.
I've been married for 10 years to my husband, Mark, who is my coworker and is the same age as me. I now work in a different branch office from my husband, but we used to work in the same department. Mark is the responsible type and is highly respected by his subordinates. He's a bit of a show-off and seems reluctant to show his weaknesses to others. He is a vibrant and masculine guy, filled with confidence. Mark's hard work has won him accolades from higher-ups, and he's expected to climb the corporate ladder without a hitch. In contrast, I'm more of a reserved, low-key person, given that our personalities are so different. I was genuinely surprised when he pursued me so passionately. After dating for 2 years, he proposed to me with a large bouquet of roses. I had never felt so loved by a man before, so I accepted without hesitation. I was excited about the bright future that lay ahead for us. However, what awaited me was a life living with my in-laws. There was no discussion about this beforehand, but Mark was adamant about us living with them.
Trust me, my parents are great. You'll be fine living with them, he insisted.
Unable to decline after hearing him passionately advocate for it, we moved in. For the past 10 years, we've been living with Mark's parents in their home. life there has been very different from what I had initially imagined.
Catherine, you forgot to sweep the front porch again.
My MIL would start nagging just after I finished making breakfast for everyone. This has become a daily routine.
I'm sorry I respond.
Just saying you're sorry isn't good enough. Go take care of it right now.
Even though I have to go to work, I'm treated like a servant every morning. For the last decade, I've been waking up at 5 a.m. to prepare breakfast and clean.
My MIL is a stay-at-home mom. Why can't she do it herself?
Despite being home all day, she doesn't lift a finger around the house. I hurry through the morning chores, head to work, and then come home to cook dinner. By the time I hit the bed, I'm utterly drained. As a result of the ongoing stress, I've lost weight and have numerous health issues. It's likely stress-related.
I don't want the neighbors to think we're lazy. So clean properly, my MIL declares as she enjoys the breakfast I made.
Hurry up, or you'll be late for work, says Mark, who has never once defended me.
My father-in-law pretends not to notice, hiding behind his newspaper. I've been subjected to emotional abuse ever since we started living with Mark's family. The stress has caused my weight to plummet and my appearance to deteriorate.
You look like a stick. No wonder you can't bear us in air, my MIL taunts.
The stress caused my menstrual cycle to stop, preventing me from having children. Despite all of this, I continue to be blamed. I used to take good care of myself and was quite healthy before marriage. Now I can hardly recognize myself in the mirror. The stress from being mistreated and my deteriorating appearance have sent me into a deep depression. I've become completely submissive to my MIL. I've lost the will to escape this household. Then I received devastating news. My father had suddenly passed away in an accident. I had been kept away from visiting my family because my husband and MIL would object. I deeply regretted not seeing him more often. My family home is only about an hour's drive from my in-laws' place. After hearing about my father's death, I asked my husband and MIL if I could attend his funeral.
My dad's funeral is coming up.
Yeah, well, we're not going.
Just keep it to close family, okay?
Before I could finish speaking, they interrupt me with their harsh words. I never thought they could be this heartless.
Trembling with anger and sadness, I replied, understood.
Many people attended my father's funeral. My dad was a small business owner and knew a lot of people. Everyone who came was in tears, so it was clear how much he was loved.
Kate, long time no see. Oh my god, you've lost so much weight. What happened?
It had been a while since I last saw my mom, and she was shocked by how frail I looked.
Well, a bit. Don't tell me you're sick. I can't bear to lose you too.
Mom broke into tears, fearing I might be sick. Considering my dad just passed, her emotional state was understandable.
I'm not sick. Don't worry. I calmed down my distraught mother and took a break in the lounge.
If you're not sick, then what is it?
I remembered my exchange with my husband. Despite my father passing, they didn't offer a single word of comfort. My simmering anger boiled over and I decided to tell my mom about my life at my in-laws' place.
Actually, I've been mistreated by my MIL. It's been really draining.
As I spoke with my head bowed, Mom looked into my face with concern.
I'm relieved you're not sick, but this is also troubling. Is this why you haven't been visiting?
Yes.
Mom handed me a piece of paper.
Check this for yourself. Then think carefully about what to do next.
The paper was my dad's will. Being a meticulous person, my dad had left a will for circumstances like this. It even included details about inheritance.
Inherit $2 million to me.
$2 million.
Exactly. You decide how to use it.
The amount was staggering and my eyes widened. At the same time, they were hopeful that they could end their cohabitation.
Now I can buy a new house and get out of there. Thanks to the inheritance my father left, my life seemed to be taking a brighter turn.
I returned to my in-laws' place and continued with my usual chores. On days when I have plans, the house usually gets messier. I suppose it can't be helped when there's no one else to clean. As I went about my chores, I thought about the $2 million I inherited from my dad. Though I detested my MIL, I still wanted to be with my husband. I decided to be honest about the large inheritance and propose moving out of my in-laws' house.
There's something I'd like to talk about.
After my in-laws went to bed, I finally had a moment alone with my husband to talk.
Talk?
Yeah, about my dad. Turns out, I'll be inheriting some money.
Oh, how much?
Well, it's about $2 million.
When I told him the amount, his face dropped, clearly shocked by the number.
Wait, what did you say?
I said $2 million. I said $2 million.
Realizing what I had just told him, my husband was overjoyed.
Wow, he loved you that much. That's great.
About how to use it.
Seizing the moment when he was in a good mood, I tried to get to the point. However, before I could say anything else, my husband blurted out something unbelievable.
Well then, we'll need to transfer that money into my mom's account immediately.
I didn't understand what he meant. It was so nonsensical that I thought he was joking.
No way, why? It's my inheritance, so that doesn't make sense.
My chuckling response was met with a hard slap on the table from him.
What are you joking about? A wife's money belongs to her MIL, you know?
He didn't seem to think he was saying anything wrong. I felt a wave of fear looking into his serious eyes.
I'm sorry, I really don't understand what you're talking about.
All I wanted to do was talk about using the money to build a house just for the two of us. Instead, he planned to turn my inheritance into something that belonged to his mother. I had a hard time falling asleep that night due to the shock. The next morning, as I was preparing breakfast, my husband and MIL confronted me with angry faces.
Amanda, I heard you're not giving me the $2 million you inherited. What are you thinking?
It seemed my MIL had already heard about the inheritance from my husband.
But it's my inheritance, so that doesn't make sense.
Stop arguing and transfer it to my parents' account right now.
A wife's money is our money.
It seemed they were hell-bent on possibly acquiring the inheritance, no matter how much I resisted. I stayed silent, realizing that any resistance was futile. Then, my husband showed me a piece of paper, getting a little arrogant.
Because you got some money? Duh. I've been supporting you, and this is the attitude I get. If you're not gonna change your mind, let's divorce.
The paper was a signed divorce document.
I've already signed it. Take it, and go back to your family's home. If you apologize properly, I might consider not going through with the divorce.
I took the divorce paper from him, noticing that all his sections were filled out. As I looked at it, memories came flooding back. I've never been supported in this household. I've contributed equally to the household expenses. All chores have been my responsibility. Despite this, they've always looked down on me. Now they were even trying to take my dad's money. Staying here, I might be coerced into handing over my inheritance. But this inheritance is what my father left for me. Being told to go back to my family felt more like an opportunity than a disadvantage. Holding the signed divorce document gave me the power to decide what happens next. I vowed not to give away my father's inheritance and made up my mind. I went back to my family's home after work that day.
Anselm.
Welcome back. I had a feeling you'd be home soon.
My mom greeted me with a warm smile, embracing my tired self. The table was set with Mom's home-cooked meal. I can't remember the last time I ate a homemade meal. As I took a bite of the warm food, tears came to my eyes.
Did you talk to your husband about the inheritance?
Yeah, and it got complicated.
I told my mom everything that my husband and mother-in-law had said to me. She was speechless at the shocking news.
The inheritance is yours, and it's your life to live from here on out.
My mom gently patted my shoulders as I broke down in tears. After spending a week at my parents' house, I decided to go back to my in-laws.
All right, I'm heading out. Take care.
Going back to that house no longer scared me. I headed to my in-laws with a newfound sense of liberation.
So you finally come back. Have you learned your lesson?
Upon returning to my in-laws, my husband and mother-in-law stood there with crossed arms.
Yes, I'm sorry. Please allow me to live here again.
I offered a superficial apology. Hearing this, my mother-in-law grinned.
If that's the case, hurry up and transfer the inheritance.
Actually, the inheritance procedures are taking longer than expected. It's not in my possession yet. It's a complicated process.
It might take another 6 months or more.
That long? Well, all right.
Both my mother-in-law and husband seemed satisfied, thinking I would obediently hand over the inheritance. However, they continued to pester me for spending a week at my parents' home.
You didn't do your duties as a wife, and now the house is a mess. Fix it now.
Returning to my in-laws after a week, the house was incredibly untidy and unsanitary. How they managed to make such a mess in a short period was beyond me.
Understood.
The old me would have been deeply saddened by the state of the house, but not anymore. Regardless of my mother-in-law's nagging or the demanding chores, I didn't mind. I completed the household tasks as ordered by my mother-in-law. Fast forward to 10 months later. Today was my mother-in-law's birthday.
I'm heading out. Keep the house clean.
My mother-in-law typically went on a trip for her birthday. Of course, I was never invited.
By the way, did you receive the inheritance yet?
It's supposed to arrive today.
How convenient. Make that $2 million a bonus. Make that $2 million a birthday present for me. Make sure it's in my account by the time we return.
My husband fell for my lie. There was no way the inheritance would conveniently arrive on her birthday. I had fooled him.
Without offering any reply, I smiled and said, "Take care and have a good trip," as I saw the three of them off.
Once they were out of sight, I began executing my plan. I had been waiting for this day for a long time. They'll surely be shocked when they return from their trip, but it's none of my business anymore. I quickly packed up my things and left my in-laws' house.
Well, amazing.
I was moving my stuff into my new home. Turns out I had built this house with my father's inheritance.
I'm so happy to live in such a beautiful house.
And I decided to live there with my mother from my childhood home.
It feels so good not to worry about them anymore. What a release.
I sank into the plush sofa, feeling contented. Today is a celebration of our new home with my mother. We had a chef over and enjoyed a lavish day. The next evening, I got a call from my husband.
Hey, what's going on?
He probably couldn't understand the situation since all my belongings were gone when he got home.
I won't be coming back there. Goodbye.
As I was about to hang up without wishing to speak further, I could hear my mother-in-law shouting on the other end.
How dare you? Where are you right now?
I cleaned up as you wished, and all my things are packed away.
That's not funny. And you didn't transfer the inheritance. Your money is mine. How many times do I have to say it?
Excuse me? I'm single, you know.
As I responded, my once shouting mother-in-law suddenly went silent.
Single?
Well, divorced, actually. I had the divorce papers, so I filed them. We're strangers now. Goodbye.
I firmly ended the call. I couldn't stop laughing, imagining the shocked expression on my mother-in-law's face. I felt so refreshed, being free from that family. Afterward, my ex-husband kept calling me. Every time I picked up, I could hear the abuse from him and my former mother-in-law. Of course, I recorded all these calls. I decided to consult with the police with the recordings I had.
Harassment from an ex-husband is uncommon. We'll issue a warning before things escalate.
Luckily, the police acted swiftly and went to give a warning to my former in-laws. For my image-conscious former in-laws, just having the police show up was embarrassing enough. On top of that, a coworker from my ex-husband's office saw the police at their home. Word quickly spread given how prominent my ex-husband was at work. Furthermore, coworkers and subordinates who didn't think highly of my ex-husband began to exaggerate the story, spreading damaging rumors about him. Before I knew it, even my department had heard the rumors.
Did you hear the police were at his place?
I don't really know. I'm divorced too.
Wait, you got divorced?
Yeah, the constant nagging from my MIL and my husband's verbal abuse was too much. I said in a voice loud enough for those around to hear.
Gossip-loving colleagues overheard and the rumors spread even more. It didn't take long for the whispers to reach my ex-husband's boss.
You've got some pretty bad rumors circulating about you.
Huh? What are you talking about?
I can't stand men who don't treat their wives right. Plus, with these rumors, our company's reputation is at stake. So I've decided to transfer you.
The transfer assigned to my ex-husband was grueling.
Wait, here?
It was to one of the worst-performing branches in rural Nebraska. The area, often referred to as the middle of nowhere, had little in terms of entertainment or attractions.
You understand what being sent here means, right?
All of my ex-husband's previous accomplishments crumbled, and there was no prospect of a promotion in the future. He had no choice but to accept the relocation and move to the countryside. As for my Mill, she was likely devastated that her son's reputation had suffered, and that they couldn't live together anymore. She became a recluse, and the stress led to her developing depression. There were also signs that she might be suffering from dementia, as she often acted out at home. Her husband, my former father-in-law, took it upon himself to care for her as best he could. Blood ties or not, a daughter-in-law is still family. It felt like all the harassment they inflicted upon me was coming back to bite the former in-law family. Currently, my mother and I are living happily together. We even started gardening in our spacious backyard.
If I had stayed in that house, I would never have discovered this wonderful hobby.
Having a hobby has reinvigorated my spirits. My body, once worn out from stress, is now in much better shape. Cutting ties with my former in-laws has brought me so much happiness,